we think that forgiveness equates just completely having a boundaryless life. Well, I've just shown you from God himself, right? He didn't love Adam and Eve any less, even after they'd sinned, but he still put that boundary in place. And that boundary stays in place till today, right? So, yeah, forgiving somebody just means that you've released them in your heart, okay? It means that you don't hold that grudge against them, that desire for revenge and all of that. But if that person still has that toxic trait in them, then you've got to set that boundary so that that person doesn't hurt you again, okay? There's no point forgiving somebody and and restoring the relationship back to the way it was, and you're giving that person the opportunity to hurt you and to keep hurting you. So you can absolutely have forgiven somebody and still absolutely have your boundary with that person, especially when the person hasn't changed. And somebody does not change by saying, "Oh, I've changed." That's not the evidence. You've got to see the fruit of the change, and to assess the fruit, that takes time. And there's no genuine change that happens in 2 weeks, or even in a month, because changing things like character and behavior and attitudes, that takes time. That takes years sometimes, but definitely months and months. You've got to see ample evidence until you yourself are comfortable and sure that that person has changed. And even at that, ladies and gentlemen, can I let you know that you still have absolutely every right to maintain that boundary for good, to maintain that boundary permanently. So a boundary where I'm talking about the type 2 boundary now, okay, where you are keeping that person out of your space and you maintain that for good, because to have a relationship with someone is your choice. You have the free will to choose to relate with someone or not. It is not a sin not to decide that you don't want to relate with somebody anymore. It just isn't. Do you get what I mean? So you are free to decide, do I actually want this relationship to be restored to the way it was before? And if you don't, that's okay. It's absolutely okay. You don't need to feel guilty. You don't need to let anybody guilt trip you into thinking that somehow it means you're not forgiven. It means you're still holding something against. That's nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Relationship is a privilege, right? For somebody to be in your space is a privilege. So, and you get to choose who you have in your space and who you don't. It's as simple as that. How do we create boundaries in general, both the type 2 and the type 1? Well, the first thing is to study, is to learn, is to educate yourself, is to empower yourself with knowledge, because you see, people will be able to take advantage when they realize that you don't know. So people take advantage of ignorance, of your ignorance. When you are ignorant, then they can take advantage of you. But when you know what they are doing, when you know that this is manipulation, when you know the type of manipulation it is, when you see and you can recognize the traits of a controlling person, then guess what? You have just empowered yourself. So the first thing that you got to do is to learn, is to study, is to read up about the types of people that you don't want in your space and the types of people that you do want in your space. What does it look like to have somebody who is honest? What does it look like to have somebody who has integrity? What does it look like to have somebody who is compassionate? What does it look like? I just mentioned 5 things. What does it look like for somebody to be a blackmailer? Go read up on it, research it. What are the different ways that people can guilt trip other people? Read, learn, study, empower yourself, educate yourself, so that they cannot take advantage of your ignorance. Number 2 is to communicate. Some people are already in relationships where they've already gone past that, okay? The relationship has already started and they haven't communicated their boundaries, and maybe they're even in a toxic environment where they can't communicate their boundaries, because there are some people, I mentioned one of the toxic people, who will not even allow you to confront them, who will not accept that you have boundaries and will not listen to you expressing your boundaries. So for those types of people, you move into number 3 type of setting boundaries, and that is to create space, to limit or cut off completely the access that that person has into your life, okay, that person has in relating or interacting with you. You know, whether it is physically removing yourself from the environment, you know, whether it's moving out, if you are living with the person and you can move out, make arrangements and move out. Gain independence, okay? Whether it's physically removing yourself from their space, and if you can't move out, then find other ways of ensuring that that person's access into your life and into your space and into your mind and into your thoughts is limited or restricted. You can also create psychological or mental boundaries, okay? And this includes deleting the person's number from your phone, blocking the person, unfriending somebody from social media, unfollowing someone, you know. Yeah, there's so many ways that you can basically stop, restrict, limit the exposure that you're getting to an individual, and just finding ways to do that. Coming up with creative ways of doing that. It's so sad that we have to talk about this, because, you know, relationships are supposed to be a beautiful thing, but, you know, as part of that, you've got to remove the bad to create space for the good. Okay, you cannot have a fulfilling life having all bad in your space, or even having a bit of good and a bit of bad all in there. That's just confusion. That's just you have a net zero. Okay, you have some good in your space, some bad in your space, and they're all mixed together. You have a net zero. But for you to have a healthy, thriving, fulfilling life, you've got to learn how to eliminate the bad and keep in the good and embrace the good and have space for the good. Okay, that's really the purpose of boundaries. That's why it's so important. So I'm going to end this by giving us a quote from this incredible guy called Darius Daniels, who's a great relationship coach. And he says this, that God obviously loves unconditionally, but unconditional love is not unconditional access. I'm going to say it again. Unconditional love is not unconditional access. And he also says that love is a gift that must be given. It's a free gift that must be given. But access is a privilege that must be earned. So you gotta earn access. You don't just get automatic access into people's lives. And people don't just get automatic access into your life. They've got to earn it. And how do you earn access? You earn access by showing and demonstrating consistently that you love and value that person, their personhood, their personality, and their boundaries, to the point where they can entrust you with the privilege of access into their lives. That's it, guys. That's it. So with that being said, we are going to be continuing next week with the continuation of the series, and we're going to be talking about broken relationships and how to mend them, right? If you are interested in mending broken relationships or finding out how they can be mended, then stay tuned for that. Until then though, God bless you, have an amazing rest of your day, and peace out.